After a few more drinks, Ryan and I left the gathering, and just as I was about to get into the car, I saw James walking out of the building. His dark blue suit was perfectly tailored, and he exuded the aura of a top doctor. Despite not having seen him in a year, I couldn't help but notice how good he looked, almost as if time hadn't touched him. I hesitated for a moment, but then I decided to walk over to him. When he saw me approaching, his eyes softened just a little, but he didn't say anything at first. Instead, he handed me a glass of champagne, which he had been holding. "Don't think I've forgotten you, Lily. You always seem to be in my thoughts, whether I want it or not," he said quietly, his voice carrying a hint of something deeper, something I couldn't quite place. I felt my heart flutter in a way I hadn't expected. We stood in awkward silence for a while before he broke it again. "You look different," he said, his gaze lingering on me. I smiled, forcing myself to appear calm. "People change, James. Time does that to people." I took a sip from the glass, feeling the champagne's light burn slide down my throat. He didn't argue. We stood there for a moment, just staring at each other. I wanted to ask him so many things, but something held me back. Suddenly he turned, as though he was about to walk away, but then stopped and glanced back at me. "It was nice seeing you again, Lily. I hope everything is going well." I nodded, though my chest was tight. "You too." I watched him walk away, his broad shoulders disappearing into the crowd, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a little bit of closure. Maybe time really did heal everything. Maybe he wasn't the person I thought he was. Or maybe I had changed more than I realized. After 2 years, I thought I had long since let go, but when I saw James, the high walls I had painstakingly built in my heart crumbled without a fight. The more I thought, the more heartbroken I felt. Finally, I channeled my grief into appetite, tearfully ordered fried chicken. As a result, I ate myself into the hospital in the middle of the night, diagnosed with gastritis. I just remembered that in these 2 years of living alone, I was really comfortable. I could come home and do nothing, lie on the couch and play with my phone, order takeout when hungry, drink beverages when thirsty. It had more or less affected my stomach. In my foggy state, I suddenly heard, during the year I was with James, although he demanded perfection in my personal matters, he would also knock on my door every day to call me for meals. Oh, the meals he cooked himself. Only every time we ate, I would be scolded by him, like, "You dropped a grain of rice, can't you drink soup without spilling it?" And so on. It seems his germophobia was always the most prominent, so prominent that it could make people forget all his other qualities. I had the misfortune of ending up in the hospital, and even worse luck, to see James's familiar face. It was the first time I saw him looking panicked, with a group of doctors in white coats behind him. Then, I was pushed away by him, becoming a patient under his care. James raised his hand and used his gloved finger to wipe the corner of my mouth. I had a bad feeling. Sure enough, James raised an eyebrow. "Fried chicken or barbecue?" "Shut up." A nurse beside me comforted me while saying, "Don't worry, you might need to have a gastroscopy. Do you want to do it with direct intubation, or under general anesthesia? General anesthesia requires a family member's signature." I was shocked. I'm the kind of person who fears nothing except injections and surgeries. Just thinking about how I saw others do gastroscopy before with such a thick tube directly inserted into the throat made me terrified. "General anesthesia. I want general anesthesia." The nurse nodded. "Okay then, where's your family member?" I suddenly remembered that I'm actually an orphan without parents. When I was in high school, my parents died in a car accident. I went to college relying on that little bit of compensation money and scholarships. Where would I have any family members in this world? James looked at me, then said to the nurse, "Go get the consent form. I'm her family member. I'll sign it." I looked at James strangely, but the severe abdominal pain prevented me from speaking. With one shot of anesthesia, I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was already lying in a ward with a nurse checking my drip. I swallowed my dry throat and asked, "Nurse, where's Dr. Quinn?" The nurse who had given me the anesthesia looked down at me. "Dr. Quinn has gone back to the hospital over there. He won't be taking up his position here for a couple of days." My eyes were dizzy. He agreed to the transfer. The nurse nodded with a suppressed smile. Yes, after all, his family is here. How could he not transfer? I tugged at the corner of my mouth, denying, "I'm not his family member." The nurse looked unconvinced. "Then last night, can you expect a not-so-normal person to say normal things?" Lying in bed, waiting for the anesthesia to wear off, I suddenly remembered that I still had to go to work today. I hurriedly opened my phone, looking at the time displayed on it, 10:30. I dejectedly lay back down, unlocked my phone, about to explain to the manager. But as soon as I opened it, ding 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 came several messages. It was the manager's message box with 3 messages sent at 9 in the morning. "When did you get married? You've been hiding it deep. I'm totally shocked.